Magnesium and generational trauma and how the two things go together. A few days ago, I posted, I posted something to social media that actually caused some confusion about, and some people walked away from the post thinking you soak in magnesium and then you experience generational trauma. Oh, that was not what I meant at all. So, I want to dive a little bit deeper in how magnesium can benefit you in releasing generational trauma. But it's not that you soak in magnesium and all of a sudden it just happens. So, let's dive a little bit into the science and what's happening in the brain and how that can benefit generational trauma. So, first off, really interesting article in Science American, and it talked about how biological after effects of the parents generational okay, let me let me say that again. So parent has has trauma. The after effects of that trauma can be found in the biological DNA of the child, even though the child did not experience the trauma. Our DNA is connected. Really interesting article. You can go Google that and read on that deeper. So, the post that I made, people walked away thinking, if I soak in that magnesium, I'm going to experience generational trauma coming out. No, 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 no. So, this is to clarify. So, when trauma happens, it affects the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, and the hippocampus. Those are the three parts of the brain that are hijacked, for lack of a better word, when trauma happens. Now, when the amygdala is traumatized, and when there's that trauma, the amygdala can signal your entire body to have tight muscles, to increase the sensitivity, and to experience insomnia. So that's what happens with the prefrontal cortex. When the hippocampus is, and I wanna look at my notes to make sure I've got this right. When the hippocampus is hijacked because a person experiences trauma, it affects their ability to connect memories on timelines and to experience emotion in the now, to connect that emotion to what's happening right now. So, for example, you had trauma happen years ago, but something happens today, and that trauma is re experienced because the hippocampus was hijacked. So the last one that we want to talk about is let's see, that we did the prefrontal cortex, and it regulates fear. And when you experience trauma and it hijacks your prefrontal cortex, you can get stuck in a place of fear, that walking in a room can be scary to you, driving in a car, doing things that someone else wouldn't be fazed by can bring back that trauma. So let's think about the second generation. So the parent had the trauma and has a better understanding of why they're nervous to do something or why they experience that fear. But biological traces of the trauma are found in the child's brain, but they don't have the memory of why the fear is there, making it harder for them to disconnect from the fear because they don't have the context and the story of the trauma like the original person who experienced the trauma, because generationally it shows up in DNA. In fact, several studies show that if the trauma is extreme enough, it actually takes 7 generations before it stops affecting the brain of the person connected to that DNA of the original trauma. So your children, and then their children, and then their children, making it harder and harder for them to heal that trauma because they don't have a story as to why they're afraid of that or why that makes them nervous. And when our cortisol spikes, when your cortisol spikes, cortisol goes up and it pushes magnesium out of your body, making the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex, and the amygdala more susceptible to trauma. Magnesium is the gatekeeper that keeps those three parts of your brain calm and fluid and working together. That's why it's so important to soak in magnesium. And we know in 1998, there was a study done that soaking in magnesium crosses the blood brain barrier. That's been a huge, people will come back at me and say, oh, you have to take this type of magnesium because this one goes to the brain and this one goes to the bowels and this one goes to, I mean, it's so confusing. There's like 9 different types. When your goal with magnesium is singular and focused to achieve cell saturation, you don't have to worry about all the different types of oral synthetic magnesium. You focus on achieving cell saturation, 6.3 or above, soaking in magnesium. Today, I've answered a lot of questions about Epsom salt. So let me be very clear. Epsom salts cannot get you to cell saturation. There's not enough magnesium, especially if you've experienced trauma or if your parents have experienced trauma, because that's already tightened up your amygdala, your hippocampus, and your prefrontal cortex. Magnesium is the gatekeeper to keep those areas of your brain functioning and working as they should. When you start soaking in magnesium, it's not that it releases generational trauma. It's the fact that it's the gatekeeper that gets your brain working together and calm and not sending out erratic signals so that when you are ready to do the inner work of releasing trauma, you've set your brain up for success. So let's think about how that would play out in real life. A child whose parents had trauma, and there's traces of that trauma in the child's brain and how those 3 parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, and the amygdala, they're not working well because of the trauma left over from the parents. They go to school and they're not set up to learn because they're stuck in fear. Their body is sending out signals of hypersensitivity, so the sounds may get to them, the noises may get to them, and they can't focus on the opportunity to learn. And when that's happening, their magnesium burn rate goes up. So the very mineral that they need for optimal brain health, optimal learning, is being pushed out through the urine. That's why it's so important to get our children soaking. That's why it's so important for you to soak. If you want your brain calm, relaxed, sending out signals when it's supposed to, think of magnesium as the gatekeeper that regulates that. When you achieve cell saturation, which is 6.3 or above, that's when we see the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the prefrontal cortex working better. So think about the load that teachers wear. If there's been trauma in the family, they have a higher maintenance student coming to their classroom. Their brain is not prepared to learn. They're not set up to learn because their brain is shooting off higher sensitivity, anxiety, and maybe they didn't sleep well the night before. So let's make sure that we're soaking in magnesium and that the people that are around us understand the role that soaking in magnesium plays. And you need to choose a pathway with magnesium soak from Living the Good Life Naturally. There's one pathway that is a relaxation pathway, and you soak in magnesium, you sleep better that night, you feel a little bit more energized in the morning, and you just soak randomly as you remember. That's the relaxation pathway. It's a great pathway. There's also a therapeutic pathway. And if you're ready for a therapeutic pathway where magnesium is calming down your brain and helping your brain to reduce fear, reduce anxiety, not send out signals of hypersensitivity, and you want enough magnesium to be the gatekeeper for calmness so that learning can happen, so that connection can happen, then you'll want the 30-day challenge. And that's where you soak in magnesium every day for 30 days. Now, perfection is nothing I have ever attained. And so you're going to miss a couple days in that 30-day challenge, and that's okay. Our goal is to aim for 80% of those days we're soaking in magnesium. And then after the challenge, you get your magnesium red blood cell tested and you make sure that you're at 6.3 or above because that is cell saturation. Now, that's not a perfect test. It is the best that we have currently to test your magnesium levels. 60% of magnesium is found in your bones. 40% is found around your red blood cells. And so that's what we're testing. We want the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the prefrontal cortex to have enough magnesium to gatekeep calm to your brain so that you're in a place of rest and relaxation. You're in a place where you can learn and uptake learning. You're in a place where you can feel connected. Because if your brain has been hijacked by trauma in your family's past, you don't interact with someone seeking to connect. You interact with someone to seek safety. That's what you're looking for is, am I safe? And if your brain is looking for safety over connection, your cortisol levels are through the roof. And when your cortisol levels are high, you don't create optimal health. In fact, you can be doing all the things, eating healthy, exercising, sleeping, all those things. And if you're stuck in fight or flight from trauma that has not been processed, you will always seek for safety and you will miss out on connection. And as human beings, we are wired to be connected to each other. Can you think back? I remember being so impacted by orphanages in Russia. I think it was on Dateline. I was in high school in the 80s, and it talked about these orphanages that they'd found, and the babies were in cribs and their physical nutrition was met. But there was so many of them that they weren't being loved on. They weren't connecting with adult caretakers. Their diapers were being changed and they were being fed, and that was it. And those babies, little trigger warning, wouldn't make it. They would roll over and die from lack of connection. Healthy women are connected women. They're connected deeply to their communities. If you're seeking safety because of trauma that you've experienced, because of trauma that your parents experienced, your grandparents or your great grandparents, and remember that goes 7 generations, then your brain has been in a state of trauma and not functioning at capacity, which does not set you up for optimal health. So, my name's Kristen Bowen. I'm the founder of Living the Good Life Naturally. And that post that I threw up a couple days ago about generational trauma and magnesium, my goal was to be very concise. And I was concise and met that goal, but it confused some people. So, my hope is that this video helped create clarity. So, I would love to know, do you feel like your brain has been hijacked by trauma, or maybe it's not trauma from your parents, but you experienced trauma and you're concerned about your children's brains being hijacked. Magnesium is not the only step. It is the first step to set their brains up for success. How much magnesium do you need? Simple. A quarter cup for adults, an eighth of a cup for children. You can soak in a bowl of water or you can soak in the bath, and you don't use more in the bathtub. If you're opting for the bathtub, keep your feet in the water. That's what uptakes the magnesium. If you're soaking in a bowl, do not use plastic or aluminum. A Pyrex casserole dish, a crock pot insert, an enamel bowl if it has no chips. So there's a few things we want to make sure we've got set up correctly. Moving your red blood cell numbers to 6.3 or above is the way to make sure that your brain has enough magnesium to be a gatekeeper and allow your hippocampus, your amygdala, and your prefrontal cortex to work and integrate together to set you up for success. I'd love to know your thoughts. If you feel like your brain's been hijacked, if you've experienced any calmness while you've been soaking, post below in the comments and let's talk about this. Have a great day. Oh, I missed this comment. Yes, Alex, an eighth a cup for kiddos. Now, my youngest daughter just finished up her master's degree program and is working at the University of Utah. She's still my baby. And she's taller than I am. So when I say kids, we want to make sure, and here's just a rough gauge of how I gauge it. Waist and below is a kid. Waist and above needs to be an adult size. And so if you have a really tall 10-year-old that is, towering at your shoulder, then they need an adult size dose. So it really depends on how tall they are. And I just do that simple waist test, just as a ballpark to determine, are we doing an eighth of a cup or a quarter of a cup? You can order your magnesium at livingthegoodlifenaturally.com. You can use coupon code MAG10, MAG10, to receive 10% off. For an adult, you will need two 32-ounce soaks of magnesium to complete the 30-day challenge. For a child who's waist and below, you only need one 32-ounce magnesium to complete that 30-day challenge. And remember, after the challenge, you want to make sure within 3 days you're getting your blood work tested to see how you're holding on to magnesium. That test is going to tell you how much you need to soak. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. We have to squirrel. I was I thought I was done, but I'm not. We have to have a squirrel moment, but it's connected to what we're talking about. So, here we go. Some people get really frustrated when they go get their magnesium levels tested because they're not even close to cell saturation. Let's see, what's today? Friday. So Monday, this is what I'll do. I'll put it in my notes section right here. I will get on and do a video about how you can increase your body's ability with a supplement to utilize and uptake the magnesium in your body, because sometimes it's your gut that's not utilizing the magnesium that's around your red blood cells. And so there's some simple ways that we can get on top of that. So I want to keep this short so it's not super long. So we're going to end here, but hang out with me on Monday if you want to learn about some simple steps. Some one that's a supplement, one that's something that you just do right when you get out of bed. There's a couple different things. So that will be our topic for Monday when you and I hang out and talk about healing our brains, letting go of generational trauma or current trauma, and maximizing our potential. Because here's what I've learned: when women wake up in the morning feeling good, they create beautiful and amazing things for the people around them. It's crazy. It's crazy out there. We need more women standing up, creating beautiful things for the people around them so that as we connect with each other, we have a stronger support system and we're watching out for our children because they're the future. They're the ones that need to be nourished and loved on and have maximum brain potential so that they can step up and live the life that they need to and do the things that they need to do. And if they're stuck looking for safety all of the time because they don't have a gatekeeper in their brain, they'll never reach their potential. And you're needed. They're needed. I'm needed. We all need to stand up and make it a better place for the people that we love. And then that ripples out to other people and it connects us to each other. And that helps you hold on to your magnesium. Healthy women are connected women. Okay, that was my squirrel. And now I'm done. And we'll hang out on Monday, you and I, and talk about ways that you can set your body up for success. Oh, you are so welcome. That is the kindest content. They're kindest comment, and I'm really excited. I will be live. I'll be going live every day, Monday through Friday. I am My goal is to get some things organized in the growth of the company that I can say to you, it will be at this time every single day. Right now, I've got some things in my schedule that I can't do that. So it's just going to be random. But you can put your notifications on. I go live on YouTube, I go live on Twitter, I go live on Facebook all at the same time. So if you're on YouTube, you can put your notifications on. You can put your notifications on here on Facebook, and I'm not sure about Twitter. Sorry. But, give me 2 or 3 weeks, and then I will have a set time that I go live every day, and then that way, maybe you do have a question and we can connect, live right here in the comments. I'm so grateful and wanna give a huge shout out to Team Good Life as they're helping me. We went from about 30 comments a day to 300, 400, 500 comments a day. And it's really important to me as the founder of Living the Good Life Naturally that those comments are acknowledged and that we do our best to share what I've learned. And I can't do all of those comments. So I'm really grateful for Team Good Life and the role that they've stepped up in the last couple of months in helping me maintain all of those. And so my goal is that I get set times so that we can connect. So if you do have a question, you can think, "Oh, I can hop on that live and I can connect at a little bit deeper level." For the next couple weeks they'll be random, but then we'll get them fine-tuned to a specific time of day. So, thank you so much for that kind comment. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.